time. But I'm sitting here with Adam Kraft, the owner of Alpha Realty Group out of Tucson. Man, I don't know where to start with the accolades that I could give you. You are most certainly the fastest growing team year over year inside of all 17 of our offices. So I don't know if you knew that, but percentage of growth year over year, that belongs to you. And rather than me spouting off a couple things, I want you to share just really quickly, just a 30,000-foot overview of Alpha Realty Group.
Yeah. Um, Privilege. Thank you. That means a lot. No, we didn't know that we were the fastest growing, but it doesn't surprise me, man. We have taken a lot of time to surround ourselves by really incredible talent. And with that has come some tremendous growth. And so from that perspective, like you said, we're out of Tucson, Arizona. We kind of started at a small brokerage and have grown into surrounding ourselves with some success with KW from a standpoint of being able to surround ourselves with some really cool people that helped us grow. And so from that perspective, year over year, we have just continued to focus on systems and processes. And because of that, we have done some pretty cool stuff.
Well, you're coming off your, I believe this is your first like national opportunity to be on stage with the Glover U.
Yeah.
Love Glover. And you've been coaching with Glover for a while. So we're going to get to that. But before we go to the pinnacle, I want you to take me back before real estate. And who is Adam Kraft?
So yeah, I mean, my background comes from fundamental sales, came from the motorcycle world into the car world, and then jumped into real estate. So yeah, Lasers, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. So I ran, kind of the finance side of motorcycle dealerships. I was a GM for multiple shops up here in Phoenix for a long time. So yeah, selling motorcycles for fun and profit.
See you doing that?
Yeah.
Do you still ride?
I have a bike, but no, I really don't. AC and heat and comfort, and so no, I don't take it out nearly as often as I should.
So you're successful in cars and bikes. What was it that piqued your interest about getting into this business?
I think in a lot of ways, I think everybody comes into real estate with the preconceived notion of freedom, business ownership, the ability to do what you want with what you want, when you want, and with who you want. And so I think from that perspective, it's a really interesting story. I was in the automotive world for a little while, and they were downsizing, and I got terminated. And so on that day, I had a client that walked into the service department and was kind of telling me all these stories. He was about to join real estate school, and he owns a painting company in Tucson. And he goes, I don't think I'm going to do it. Do you want to go to school? And, 10 years later, here I am. I literally left my job, packed my things that day, started school the following Monday, and I've never looked back.
Wow. So 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years in the business. So tell me a little bit about the early years. Were you on a team? Did you just operate as a solo?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was with a smaller brokerage, and I hit the ground running. I had a ton of fundamental sales background, right? So failure was not an option. I had two. We were about to have, literally, as I was transitioning out of school, we had our second child. And failure was not an option. I had diapers to pay. I had food to provide. And so I spent the little bit of money that I had left buying some real estate signs, and jumped into just treating it as if it was a job. Showed up every single day, 9 to 5. I ran open houses every single day. And quickly, within that 6 months, I became the top producer at this small brokerage, just selling houses, and making client experience. And I took the knowledge that I had from a lot of these other worlds that I came from. The automotive world is hyper focused on client experience, making the client feel fantastic, ensuring that those surveys were good. And I kind of transitioned into that. So about 6 months in, I had noticed a significant problem inside the brokerage model, that we were having tremendous attrition, and attrition bothers me. When we see amazing people walking out the door, I went to my broker and I just said, in my background, my job was to train these people on fundamental sales. Why don't we create a training program and help these folks figure out how to sell, kind of the real way to client experience and selling product, to give them the word tracks that they need to be successful.
Why does attrition bother you?
I love people. I love good people, and watching good people fail out because they didn't have the resources versus not having the skill set, just made me feel like we were doing a disservice to the people that were entrusting us at the time. 100% who I am. Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was curious. There's obviously the business reason that attrition matters, but I definitely think that it goes much deeper.
It's always been people before profits, always, and it will always be that.
All right, so you bring this idea to him about training. Does he?
And no, he met me with you should go start a team and make a whole bunch of money, and I'll work on figuring out how to run the brokerage, and you go build a team.
Dan, you put it out there, you volunteer, and he goes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So 6 months in, not knowing what I didn't know, and he kind of gave me some keys to a castle that I probably didn't deserve to be in at the moment. So, thankfully, I had some fantastic alliances in the lending world. I had a lot of people that I had surrounded myself with that were great resources for me to ask questions. But within 6 months of being in real estate, I started my team. Yeah.
What were some of the lessons that you learned early on? Because I'm sure there was many.
Oh, goodness. Early on, know your value. I think that was probably one of the biggest ones that I took away. I think in an absence of value, we give away our profitability in order to grow quickly. And I think that wasn't a sustainable business model. And it took us many years to kind of work that backwards to be a profitable model inside the system.
Now, when you say know your value, are you talking about your value to you're probably talking about both, but are you talking specifically value to the consumer or value to other agents that you're surrounding yourself with?
Both. Yeah. Especially from an agent perspective. I think for me, it was hard at the time because I was sitting there going, I've been doing this for 6 months. I don't have the right to be on this platform. I don't have the right to be, a ton. And so sitting in that, I think at that time, I was willing to take, I call them my lost boys, right? I was willing to take anybody and everybody that would put their trust in me, and just try to make it come together. And so I think that created a pretty substantial gap in quality of life for a little bit, trying to grow that out, which I think all business owners go through in the beginning as they build it out. But so knowing my value, I think probably would have been important. I think that I came from a world that was 100% hyper-focused on systems and processes, and I fought it for a long time. Which looking back, I wish I would have just embraced it early on and done a lot of these things right, made it a replicatable process from the beginning, because that's really what I attest a large majority of our recent growth is just systematizing everything. So yeah, slowing down to speed up, being very granular on your why, getting very granular on what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, when you had so much success, you said you were running open houses like every single day. Is that the same type of lead generation technique you started building the team on? And my question follow-up to that is that still work today?
Well, full transparency, I didn't have a ton of money, right? And so, and real estate was different then. We don't have all these lead aggregates. We don't have all of these other platforms. We don't have this technology. This was a time where picking up the phone worked, door knocking worked. But I've always stayed true to what it is, because I think now more than ever, it's been talked about a lot recently that the written word, the spoken word is going to be valued more than the written word pretty quick here, just because of all of what we're seeing inside of technology. If you want to call misinformation or people's perception of what that looks like right now, the spoken word is going to be impactful. And so I think now more than ever, knocking on somebody's door, having a conversation, meeting them in an open house versus sending them a flyer, that stuff works. It's always worked and it will continue to work.
I'm glad you brought that up because if there's an area that you can never, you will always get a positive return on investment investing in your own communication
Yeah.
skills. And I tend to believe that maybe I'm just romantic about words, but I'm right there with you, man. Like when you know how to communicate through spoken word, um, that that cements relationships, personal and professional. Like this is super important. So when did you make your way from the smaller Oak Ridge with the Lost Boys over to our office, Keller Williams Southern area?
Well, let's be clear. I still call them the Lost Boys. Yeah. Yeah, we are the degenerates, the misfits, but yeah, so I was probably just shy of a year as I started to transition. And in fairness, this isn't a plug for KW, but I read the book Five, and essentially the 30,000-foot view is you're a byproduct of the five people you surround yourself with. And I had the privilege of, you know, Chase Delperdang from Team Integrity. Him and I know each other from years back from high school ages. And at that time, he was the CEO of our market center. And so I reached out to him to have some conversations around what they were doing, why they were doing it. And TI had just had tremendous success. Their growth rate was phenomenal. And how do I get surrounded by more people like this? He invited me out to a conference with Kristen. And sitting in a room with Kristen was foundational, I think, probably for me. So I attest a lot of my success to trusting her systems, her processes, her belief. And so we were about a year in when we had the privilege of listening to her talk a little bit about, I think it was career visioning or something to that effect that she had brought out to the Tucson Association of Realtors. And we never looked back. Within couple months, we had fully transitioned our business over and started running.
Well, I don't mean to skip a few years, but I really want to spend a lot of our time this morning and like talking about like things that you are learning and seeing right now.
Mm.
So like fast forward me into team's history a little bit to, where you're at today. Like what does Alpha look like?
Yeah. So we have a total of 15 partners that are inside of our organization. We have invested pretty heavily into our leverage model and keeping leadership, bringing in our director of operations. We have some people that are overseeing. And my thought behind that is really about keeping my agents in their top 20%. I want to hyper focus on allowing them to do what they do best. And that's being in front of clients and pitching our culture. So yeah, we have a total of 15 people that are on the team in its entirety. We do a couple hundred transactions a year. Their intent is to do 400 this coming year. So it's going to be pretty fun to watch them grow.
Tell me a little bit about the leverage model with your director of operations then, and how you thought about bringing that, because I see agents who have tremendous level of success go immediately into hiring sales. And I have always been a proponent of the support precedes sales. Support inside the team organization has to, because the support is what solidifies the value proposition and allows our salespeople to deliver on promises. So bring me into actually hiring a director of operations and what you learned throughout that process, and then maybe even how you retain that person and make them someone who is highly valued in the organization.
Yeah. So to be clear, I made several mistakes, and I think one of them is doing exactly what you just talked about. And really, we should have brought in leverage and kept me in production longer. And I think my big why was truly getting in front of agents and teaching, and that's what I wanted to do. So I skipped some steps. As far as a director of operations, I think you're spot on. I think really it starts with a transaction coordinator that brings in some leverage. And we were fortunate enough to find one of those early on that was fantastic. My director of operations, when you really get to the point where you realize that systems and processes matter, it's about not skipping the steps. It's about slowing down and asking the right questions. It's about utilizing the tools that we have at KW to do it correctly the first time. The monetary, mental, emotional, physical frustration that comes with making a bad hire is a huge impact on your business, right? Huge. And so when we really leaned into the resources that we have at our disposal, running KPAs, making sure we understand their personality assessments, looking at their disc profile, making sure it's somebody I want to sit across the table with for an extended period in time. And make, yeah, right. We overlook that so often. They're going to be great. Um, and really making sure that all of that aligns before you make that decision. And going back to your question, how do you retain it? Well, if you did all of the work on the front half, retaining it is the easy part, right? Now you're just nurturing the relationship. Now you're allowing them to do what they do best. When you've taken the steps to make sure you have the right person in the right chair, um, they are energized by doing all of the things that are inside of that job description. So,
Are you the type of agent that has spent years scaling their real estate business to a point where now you wonder what additional businesses can I get into? Well, if that's you, I want to introduce you to the Access Network. Access is a real estate services company built for agents just like you who understand that partnerships matter. Rather than building and operating businesses all on your own, the Access Network exists to plug you into best-in-class partnership opportunities, delivering to you true businesses in a box that you can utilize to supplement your empire building. Access opportunities in home and auto insurance, title, mortgage, property management, home warranty, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to learn more about how your business can scale, create additional revenue streams, and reward you for the business that you've already created, reach out to Access Network today and talk to one of our talented business consultants. It's not about what brokerage you're at, it's about what platform you're built on.
Most mega agents that I've had the pleasure of being in business with, like you, tend to have challenges around control. In observing you, I'm sure there is some of that struggle, but I also have seen that it's seen that ways that you do pretty well with giving control. Is that an accurate reflection, or would you describe it differently?
I really appreciate you saying that. I think you're spot on. Most of us that are in these type of roles have a really difficult time, and I wouldn't even say control, um, proper utilization of leverage, right? And so I think in a lot of ways, we want what's best for our leverage pieces, our trusted alliances that we've brought in. We know that they have the capability of doing it, but we keep it too tight leashed. And I think in a lot of ways that when you've put the trust into these folks, when you understand their capability, when they've shown up, I think the control comes from the fact that people like you and I have a tendency of running so fast we don't slow down enough to really properly explain what our expectations are. And so the people that are really good at the ops side of the fence have a tendency of sitting on that SC side of the profile, where I sit on the driver's side and I am moving way faster than I probably should. And so slowing down and making sure that we're being very specific on what our expectations were has been something that I've had to learn, not something that I was innately built with.
How do you make sure, like, what's, I'll call it a system, like, what's your system for making sure that you're in a rhythm of slowing down?
Yeah. So one thing that we've utilized recently is technology. I don't think that AI is going to take over our industry. It's going to be the agents that are utilizing technology that are going to take over our industry. And so we have brought in a lot of technology into our business because what I found is that I had started making promises to people, not mentally or physically acknowledging that I had done that. So I record every single one of our conversations, every meeting, every conversation that we have. I utilize AI to extrapolate the summary to give me exactly what I think we took out of that. What promises did I make that I need to follow up with? So I would say that that has been probably one of the biggest processes is just being clear because I think I move a little faster than most and they're retaining on to nuggets that I did not retain. So using systems and processes behind the scenes to help me stay a little bit more focused.
So some listeners hear that, and I know that they're a little freaked out by that.
Hmm.
So how do you give me a really simple overview? How do you describe that to a client? Like, hey, I'm and record this, and here's why.
Hmm. I think a lot of agent fears stem from agent fears. They're not consumer fears. And so we think that it's weird. We think that that would be uncomfortable. We believe it's the limiting mindset. Stinking thinking doesn't get you the results you want, right? So um, I think when you present it from a standpoint of this transaction matters to me and ensuring that I'm delivering on anything and everything that I promise that I'm going to do, it's imperative that I am systematized on making sure that I understand exactly what we talked about. Would it be okay with you if I were to go ahead and record our conversation so that I have the transcript of what we've talked about today to make sure that I meet your expectations? No client has an issue with that.
That's a super good point. A lot of our fears are derived from our mode of thinking. And, it's been at least 3 decades that we have called into any business and we get the same message. This call will be monitored for quality and assurance purposes. Like, none of us hang up the phone at that point. Right. And so really we're just translating what the consumer already knows and is used to into the real estate game to make sure that we're delivering on our promises.
Well, even think about chatbots right now, right? That's a big topic that everybody's talking about. All of the agents are anti-chatbot, right? And the reality is when you put a chatbot out there, all clients, when we reach out, hey, ask me a couple of questions, I can help you. I'm an AI generated, chatbot, but I can answer your questions. Most people will start there if it's something easy, but we're over here saying it has to be belly to belly. We've got to be, well, when we've sped up on doing some of these ancillaries, it gives us the ability to be, everybody deserves our attention. They just don't deserve it equally, right? And so when we can identify those folks that need us in real time, we're able to be more purposeful. We're able to be more impactful because we don't need to run a 50, 60, 100 agent team. We can run 15 and run at a very high level, right?
Yeah. One of our business partners, someone who's become really a mentor / partner to me is, Anthony. And will be on to this PE firm and was some amazing content if you haven't gone to NFX before. And most of what they talk about are startups and these, the concept of this 3-person unicorn, like running $1 billion company with 3 people. And to your point, when utilized properly, we can run such massive businesses right now with very few people, which ultimately causes deeper relationships inside of our organization, which builds culture. Again, helps us deliver on promises in a much better way. And so I love what you're talking about here, man. I'm curious when it comes to systems. Obviously, you keep bringing it back to systems. If you're talking to an agent, and it could be an agent that's having a ton of success from a GCI level. We have some ridiculously high earners inside of our firm that I can tell you, and they would admit, they have no systems. They're just extremely good with people. And so in a higher price market, it allows them to put a pretty good living together. But if they were to ask you, Adam, what is the first and most important system that I should focus on implementing? What would you say?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that's your system and that works for you, then great, run that, and just make sure you replicate it on a. For me, it was about client experience, and I knew that I couldn't replicate it. I couldn't control the client experience unless I started to get systematized. So, I mean, the first thing that I would tell you is this database, right? I mean, if you're going to put a system around anything and you're going to run a business model that's like that, where you're hyper focused on the GCI and high potential earnings, you need to have a system around what that looks like, because most of those clients are going to want to make sure that you're following through on what you said. So having a system around follow up, how to deal with your database, what the follow up process looks like after the sale to ensure that they feel like a VIP, before, during, and after the sale, will tremendously help the scalability of that type of business model.
I think we're going to trade more units across the state of Arizona and nationally than we did in 2025. I don't know if you agree with that, but I want to say the wind is going to be our agents' backs, because I wouldn't go that far. but I do think we're going to see an increase of the units traded. You're targeting and intending on having another pretty significant year-over-year growth. What are you, as the leader of Alpha, focus on most in order to achieve that goal?
It's not one thing. It's really not. And I know that that's a difficult thing to say. Right now, there is a ton of agents that are genuinely struggling. And we talked about this in the beginning, that it's about people for me. And so we're having new conversations with some incredible talent that need systems, processes, and opportunity. And so first and foremost, our recruiting right now is at a pretty high level, and having those conversations with folks that really need some assistance. Um, secondly, I'm going back to the fundamentals, man. We are getting heavy into the basics. It's actually our word of the year is fundamentals. We're going back to the basics, right? It doesn't need to be harder than an open house. It doesn't need to be harder than door knocking. Our phone works. We don't. We need to make sure that we're making our follow-up phone calls, and we're doing what we promised our clients. And so for us, it's really just about doing what we've always done, doubling down on our education, sharpening our sword, and being prepared when those questions are had, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable conversations of what's going on, whether it be rates, whether it be the world, whether it be, and I think that that gives us a unique value add with our clients right now. And at the end of the day, this is a relational sport. It's belly to belly, right? And we need to be able to show up for the clients in their time of need. People don't stop moving just because things are weird, or economic situations. And so from that perspective, we're doing what we've always done and focused on the things that will always work.
Just had a staff meeting, and even though our primary consumer is you and our agents, I still brought them through the fundamentals of agribusiness for a real estate agent. These ideas of lead generation and lead follow-up and negotiating, because I feel that they need to be reintroduced to the things that you guys are going through on a daily basis. And we need to be great as a brokerage at asking the right questions to help keep you guys in those fundamental activities. I want to talk about recruiting a little bit, because that was the thing that you said. When you think about recruiting, how do you go about recruiting? And you're talking to a ton of team members here. So talk about recruiting specifically as a team lead.
So we talked about this earlier of know your value, right? I think some of the conversations that we're having right now are with, agents that have the ability of doing 30, 40, 50 transactions on their own. So I think one, leaning into the things that we have at a brokerage level, get yourself back into CB, understand how to hire correctly, right? Because again, some of these people, bringing them into your organization can be a tremendous infection if you're not careful. And so from a recruiting standpoint right now, I think the biggest aha that I've had over the last couple of years is I might want everyone. I don't need everyone. And so getting really granular around what my investor terminology buy box looks like. Who do I want to be in business with? Do they have the grit and tenacity? Am I willing to slow down and actually take them through the full, process? It's the hire slow, fire fast. And really what we have found, I have no attrition, right? For the most part, I have no attrition. The first agent I have ever hired is still on my team. So, it's about being very clear on what you're trying to accomplish. And we're not hiring just to hire. We're hiring the right people that will represent our brand, that will show up for our clients in the experience that they deserve. And so being very clear for us, I think is been successful, and it will continue to be our hyper focus, is making sure that we're in business with the right people.
Curious, what role does the rest of the team play in recruiting? When I'm dialoguing with team owners, they frequently will bring up to me, the rest of the team. And sometimes teams have scarcity mindsets around bring in more people. That means less for me. Curious, does that come up for Alpha, or how do you think about the rest of the team's role in preserving the brand of Alpha?
We use the analogy a lot that we're a race car, right? Like every person has a role on the team. You might be the tire, I might be the steering wheel, he could be the driver, but without all of us together, we don't function like a race car. And I think that we built it into our culture that it's not about the number of agents, it's how big is the pie and where do we want to go, right? Because I have never, and I know that this is off script and not a KW way, I've never made our goal sets. It's never been my goal. It's been their goal sets that we've added up to make it our team goal, and I will not fail them, right? So if this is what you said you wanted, we're going to go get it together. And so, yeah. So when we started to build it out like that, it's we should get, this isn't a plug, but Fellow or whatever new shiny technology object that's out there. Okay, well, great. Justify to me how it's going to increase business, and let's talk about what it's going to cost. And then we work a business plan backwards. Okay, well, we don't have the proceeds to make that happen at the current moment. So either we all need to sell more houses or we need to bring somebody else in. It's gotten to the point right now where we make a vision board every year for individuals, but we also make our team vision board. And every year we have growth on our vision board, and we have a specific number of agents we want to bring in because they understand more profit, more transactions equals more opportunity for them, not less, right? And we go from the Amazon mentality that we're always going to reinvest it back into what we need next. That's going to help us go faster. That's going to give us better quality of life, right? So many of my agents are hyper focused on quality of life. It's not about making $1 million. It's about getting to do what they want, when they want, with who they want, right? So, yeah. So when we can keep them focused on that and not slipping into the stinking thinking, that's where our culture is at. So they're, in all fairness, you asked me, where's it coming from? They are my biggest proponents. All of our growth has come from our agents making introductions to other agents that they thought would be a good fit for our team.
Well, and I got to commend you because it's not easy to build the level of trust it requires among your people in a sales industry where we are 100% commission, right? To have that type of just trust in a leader that, yes, Adam is committed to reinvesting into the company, reinvesting into me so that I can hit my goal. And so that's a Herculean effort. And if that is the mentality of the team, good on you, man. Like we all can learn from you in doing that. I'm curious, what are you most proud of over the last few years in the business?
Real Talk with David is proud to partner with Envoy Mortgage, powered by Access. The Access Network is a platform that we've told you about before, and it is truly redefining how agents just like you are getting into the mortgage business with our partners at Envoy. If you value not only the best rates and the best consumer experience possible, coupled with a wide array of products for every situation that you can think of, but you also value a mortgage partner that truly behaves as your business partner and gives you the opportunity to get into the mortgage space, then you need to learn more about Envoy Mortgage through Access Network. Reach out today to learn more and learn how you can take advantage of Envoy's exciting agent opportunity model.
Jelly Roll makes this comment about, the windshield in our car is big for a reason, but we rarely, if ever, look up in the rear view mirror to see where we came from, right? And so I struggle with this question a lot. What am I most proud of? I feel like sometimes one of the biggest things with people in seats like mine is we're always just looking forward, right? I guess if I really were to break down and from an emotional standpoint, I'm proud of the team, right? I'm proud of what they have accomplished. So often when we're sitting in this chair, the accolades, the person on the big screen is the leader. It's not the team. And I fully understand, and they fully understand. We didn't get here just because of me. We got here based off of their efforts. But to watch the growth and like I told you before, my big why is people. It's not necessarily the leverage of real estate. It's building people into becoming the best versions of themselves and watching them transform into that next chapter of whatever that is. And so really over the last couple of years, I mean, if I were to throw out some names, watching Nicole fall into a rhythm of systematizing everything and taking full ownership of the position, Regina jumping into transaction coordination and realizing it's bigger than just a day-to-day transaction situation, and how can she grow that out? Mason Harward doing 40 transactions on his own last year, right? Like, so watching these folks that have essentially come in as baby birds with no background, and watching them grow into these incredibly talented, amazing, multifaceted people that aren't just doing transactions, they're running business and they're thinking big, has been a huge win for me.
What's a failure or a misstep that you had that can encourage another business owner?
Well, first and foremost, I've always believed that there is nothing that can't be fixed, right? So if you made it is what it is, right? Fail forward and fail quickly, right? Just get back up and move on. I would say that, again, not that this is a KW plug, but I say this to my agents all the time: trust the process, right? Trust the process. It might not make sense now, but it will shortly. And if I would have leaned into all of the resources that I had at my disposal and didn't have the ego to believe that I could do it better than those that had come before me, I could have just taken the roadmaps and made them my own. I could have sped up our growth rate tremendously, right? Not fighting, the hiring process, not fighting the red book, not fighting the profit models, not fighting. And so I made a lot of mistakes around that, only to come back to figure out that I could have just taken the roadmaps that I had at my disposal and gone faster.
You could be running your business on any platform, in any network, any company. It's a vulnerable question for me to ask that I think it's important, but I'm not afraid to ask it. Why are you in business with us?
I don't think that there's another brokerage that's out there that has the training modules that gives us the ability to grow as quickly as we want to than any place than KW. Now, I don't necessarily mean they're easy to find, right? But they're here, and if you're willing to go find them, they're there. And if you're asking the right questions, I don't think that there's another organization that's out there that is packed full as much talent as we have. I think KW has done a tremendous job in creating culture where there is no gatekeeping, right? You could call me tomorrow and ask me what my database plan is, and I'll give you the entire process. It's a matter of you going out and doing it, right? And that spreads across KW International. I could call, Jeff Glover in Michigan and ask him how to do XYZ, and he'll give it to me and wouldn't charge me, right? Like, I mean, that's the type of culture that we've created inside of our organization. And for me, my big why is, how do I touch more people at a higher level and take our culture, our vision, our desire to impact as many agents as we possibly can and help them build a truly rewarding life for them and their families. I don't know of another platform that's out there that makes expansion as easy as it is inside of our organization. So, very broad spectrum answer, but I mean, it's a cauldron of all of the things that allow us to have no ceiling on our business. We can take it and make it however big we want to make it. And in addition to, I mean, you guys have done a tremendous job recently of bringing ancillary business models into the equation, where we're not just always hunting the next deal. Maybe it's now creating leverage inside of, title or lending, and that's what kind of Access is doing at the current moment, and giving opportunities to really blossom into doing some other things and running this more from a broad spectrum, start to finish. And we've been talking about client experience, right? That allows me to really control the client experience from front to back. How is that not the most rewarding opportunity to truly impact the entire portion of the transaction, ensure that the clients are getting what they deserve? I don't know of any other brokerage that's out there. I know that there's a lot of new shiny objects and a lot of distractions, but there's always going to be new shiny objects and new distractions. And I think
We're so fortunate to have leaders like you inside our organization. This year, you've also stepped up. You know, probably most of both my listeners are with KW. And as we've said before, it's not about KW. But one of the things that I do love that I think every brokerage should have is some type of leadership council like we have. And this year, you've also stepped up. And I'm curious, like, there's a tide component to that. There's an energy. And I think I get why, because of your why, that be so centered around people and giving back. But speak to the agents inside of our 17 offices right now, Adam. Like, why is the ALC important? And why was it important enough for you to actually step onto that this year and run the company with your leadership team?
So I think we're currently in an environment of change. There's a lot of change that's going on, globally, locally, inside of our brokerage. And this has been a year of a lot of change. And I've always believed that it's one thing to have an opinion about the change, and being on the sidelines and complaining, or you can step in and be the voice of the change that you want to see. And I think so often from a leadership perspective, we can step a little bit too far back, that we're not in the trenches with the masses. And that can lose some of the vision, the why, the when, the how. And so for me, the ALC, I think that it's impactful for our brokerages in general to have a voice, right? To have a vision, to have a part of what is being done and the say of that. But for me this year, it was one of those things that we've reached a part where my business is running a little bit on its own. We've got the right people in the right places. And if we want to see the change that's going to drastically impact the masses inside of our organization, the guys that are in the trenches, the gals that are out there hustling, we need to be in there advocating for them in a way that is going to set them up for success.
It almost goes full circle back to when you went to the very first broker at the small boutique. And I can just tell you, and I want you to hear it loud and clear, we don't want that same type of result. We want Adam's voice being integral in the direction that we're bringing access and all our brokerages across the state. And I'm super fortunate to have you in my world, man. It's been awesome. And
Likewise. Thank you.
sit here and talk to you for a long time about a lot of things, and we should do it again. But I want to transition to some in the last segment of my shows. 3, 2, 1, action. Same 3 questions I ask every guest since the inception of the show. They're not too hard, but on the hot seat a little bit. What's the most impactful book you've ever read, personally or professionally, and why?
I mean, if we were going business, I would truly, honestly say when I embraced MREA is probably about the time that we really. I wish I was, because it forced us to go back and really be honest with ourselves around what needed to happen, how it should grow. I mean, I would say that we've recently done Shift, but if I was to pick one that was outside of KW, I would probably say the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Good stuff. This is a question that I love asking to everyone I interview. And I want you to think carefully about this, Adam. I want you to think about someone who's been impactful in your life that you want to thank. So who has been most impactful on your life and business? And can you take a moment to thank them?
I would honestly have to say my grandfather. 96 years old, still kicking it. But what an incredible human, man. He has done amazing things for Parks and Rec out in Washington State. But he always put people first. Oh, yeah. Grandpa Sam, love you, man. Thank you so much.
Man, Grandpa Sam needs to come out here.
He's a good dude. Yeah, he is.
He's 96.
Good dude.
What a life. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Last question. Um, you alluded to this in your own focus for Alpha, and that it's not just one thing. But I do want you to take a moment for all the agents that are out there listening to this. If there was one thing that you could encourage agents in 2026 to just push the chips all in order to move the needle in their real estate business, so one thing that you would give as a piece of advice.
One thing, one piece of advice. I guess my piece of advice was get clarity. Pick your one thing and do it. If it's going to be lead generation, do all of it, right? Don't skip the steps. If it's going to be open houses, do them from start to finish. Be all in on something, right? I think so often we have a tendency of being multitasking is multi-failing. We're everywhere. We're marketers. We're open house guys. We're transaction coordinators. We're everywhere. Pick your one thing and do it well, right? And I would say that would be, if you're going all in this year, pick your one thing, do it to its entirety.
People are going to love this episode. You dropped a lot of value. You serve multiple markets. So if people want to learn more about it, you, Adam, Alpha, send you referrals and markets you serve.
Yeah, so we're on all the platforms. We can be found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, excuse me. That's showing my age. Yeah, but the Alpha Realty team, you can find us on all platforms, websites. We're easy to find. The Alpha Realty team.
That's awesome. Dude, thanks for hanging out with me.
It's been a pleasure.
Guys, this has been another episode of Real Talk with David. As always, go play. All right.